In the year 212 AD, the Roman Emperor Caracalla did something which was intended to impress a lot of people within his empire. He granted universal male suffrage to all of the free men who were Roman and under Rome's dominion. Before that, earning Roman citizenship was something that usually took generations. Loyal families around the empire would strive to serve the empire, and maybe they or their sons or their grandsons would become citizens, and thus proof against torture and more reasonable taxes and not having to pay taxes as labor. In other words, aristocrats of the empire. That is what a Roman citizen was under the empire. But Caracalla made everyone a citizen, all men. Sounds wonderful, right? Well, there's one small problem. You can't have an empire where you have genuine aristocrats and genuine slaves and serfs and peasants in between, where everyone is legally equal. So new legal distinctions arose between citizens. The honestiores were the honorable ones, and they retained a lot of the traditional benefits of being a Roman citizen. The humiliores were the humble citizens, and they had the citizenship, but it was in name only. They had the appearance of freedom, well, to the extent anyone had freedom under the empire, but it was in name only. It was a propaganda device. It was a tool. Our society, our American Republic, was built on the notion that, as with Rome, everyday people could do remarkable things. And citizenship was something that made Americans equal under the law, protected by the Constitution with certain inalienable rights. These are described not just as the life, liberty, and property that Jefferson was echoing from John Locke, but the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments of our Constitution. However, as different as this was from Europe, which retained its sense of aristocracy, our American sense of freedom endured for 2¼ centuries. But as time has gone on, especially since World War II, those who are at the top of our society have more and more been inheriting wealth, position, power, influence. I don't believe in white privilege, but I certainly believe in the privilege that you inherit from your ancestors, the family legacy. Now, so few politicians have any familial connection with the American middle class. So few politicians send their sons or daughters into the military. There is this sense that they are a people apart. And this new American aristocracy is expressed in the establishment in Washington, D.C. We are faced in the 2020 election with something truly shocking. One of our two political parties is openly talking about packing the Supreme Court and altering the judiciary. And we know they'll do it because they altered the judiciary years ago. In 2012, then Senate Majority Leader, Democrat Harry Reid, got rid of the filibuster rule as applies to judicial nominations. He was warned by people, including members of his own party, if you do this, the shoe will be on the other foot at some point, and the Republicans will do it to us. Well, since then, the Democrats have lost the Senate, and a lot of Republican judicial nominees were passed through that wouldn't have been passed through under the old filibuster laws. Thank you, Democrats, for changing the rules and harming our freedom in the process. Now, when faced with the probability that the new Trump nominee will make a real conservative majority in the court, Democrats are talking about packing the Supreme Court. The last person who tried was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and it was his sternest rebuke. And it was a rebuke leveled not just by the Republican Party of the time, but by Democrats and by the American people who didn't like the idea of the separation of powers between the executive, legislative, and judicial branches being eliminated. But that's not all. Democrats are also talking about giving statehood to Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. The District of Columbia was set up so that the national capital would not have states' interests involved in its politics. I think that's wise. The Mexicans and others do that. But there's this sense that D.C. should be a state so that Democrats can get 2 more senators. If D.C. wants to join a state, they should join Maryland. They would be very welcome there. But to become their own little city-state just to give Democrats 2 senators, no, that's a political reach. The same thing is true for Puerto Rico, an island where my abuela comes from, an island that has repeatedly been ambivalent about this whole being involved with Yankee imperialism thing. Making Puerto Rico a state just to give Democrats 2 more senators? No, this is not about the people of D.C. or Puerto Rico. It's about acquiring more power in the Senate so that with a packed Supreme Court, with an expanded U.S. Senate that includes 2 new, reliably Democrat states, they can establish a more one-party system. They can do what the elites within their party have wanted to do for a very long time. Some of that has already come out this year. Some of that is a result of the coronavirus pandemic and the lockdown orders that have been established as a result of it. These lockdowns have effectively destroyed the middle class in vast swaths of the United States. Middle class people are essential to our republic because they stand on their own 2 feet, earn their own way, and are not beholden to politicians for their food and for their shelter. But thanks to closing down all, quote, non-essential, unquote, branches of the economy in the name of preventing a pandemic, which is a questionable policy in the first place, what the Democrats have in effect done is taken a lot of middle-class people in a lot of very important regions of this country and made them dependent upon the government. If you want to be in a society that is run by people as arrogant as college professors, theoreticians who have these crystalline ideas about the way things should work, and that's policed by people as tolerant as woke college students who've just learned the true faith of socialism, by all means, vote for Democrats this fall. Vote for Democrats in November. We will lose the Supreme Court as a bastion of protecting our Constitution against policies of the day. We'll lose the U.S. Senate and have it expand to fit a Democrat's idea of justice, which means they have the power and nobody doesn't. Nobody else does. Be prepared to be regulated. Be prepared to be taken care of as if you were property. Government health care will do that. Government welfare policies will do that. They'll keep you maintained so that you may service them. Or you can earn your freedom. Every generation is an experiment for this thing we call freedom. Every generation has to earn it. The generation right now is being faced with the starkest choice we've had in my lifetime. We're being faced with the choice between an obnoxious president who happens to be also a proven leader capable of getting results for the American middle class, who's committed to expanding the American middle class, as well as standing up to the enemies of freedom around the world without foolishly involving us in nation building. Yes, he's obnoxious, President Trump is. But he's obnoxious in our service, the service of the non-elite, the service of the lumpen proletariat of the American people, a people who are not content to be serfs, cared for by their betters, ruled over for their own benefit by their betters. Well, actually, that's what this election is about. Are you going to vote for the obnoxious orange man who has proven capable and willing and dedicated to fighting for traditional notions of American freedom? Or are you going to vote for people who want to take care of you like you are a horse or a cow or a woman with the status of women hundreds of years ago? In other words, chattel. Are you content to be a cog in someone else's wheel or machine, or are you content, or are you insistent on being the master of your own fate? That's really melodramatic as it sounds, what this election is about. It's also about this. I'm just a high school teacher. I teach history. I don't have any special letters after my name. I don't have any great experience with elites. I was born in Manhattan, but I never lived there over the age of 6 months. But every year and every day I'm with my kids, I tell them we have more in common as Americans than anything that divides us. I tell them that in the United States we fight and fight and fight during the election, but we come together after the election as one people. That it's sportsmanship, civically applied. That it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Since 2000, when Al Gore played his gambit to try to take the election by legal chicanery, that has been a harder and harder message for me to believe enough to tell the kids, because I'm not going to openly lie to them. And the attempts this year to divide us further by birth characteristic, which shouldn't matter in a society where we are free enough to define ourselves by our choices. A party that is eager to revive the racism that they used to thrive upon. Remember, the Democrats were the party of the Confederacy, and Northern Democrats protected slavery as fervently as some Southern Democrats. A party that divides rich from poor, men from women, heterosexual from homosexual. A party that divides people by race. A party that thrives on that division parasitically. Now is reaching to fundamentally restructure our Constitution, our freedom, our republic, and our lives will change if they succeed. And the dream that we are all Americans with different ideas, genuinely diverse in opinion, but loyal to the common belief that our freedom, even the freedom of people who believe in diametric opposition to ourselves, is the best way of life on earth. That is being tested. Right now, the Chinese Communist Party is gambling that their system, which is a totalitarian police state, is superior long run to ours. History has not always proven that free people can outdo the totalitarians. The Athenians lost the Peloponnesian War. It is possible that they, the Chinese Communist Party, are right that at this moment of history, totalitarian police states are more durable than free republics. That the rule of power and of men is more fundamentally sound than the rule of law and ideal. The real question is going to be decided by the American people. And either we will, as blatantly melodramatic as it sounds, earn our continued freedom by rebuking a party that wishes to take our freedom in return for offering us some mediocrity of security. If we vote Republican, we keep our freedom. If we vote Democrat, they erode our republic, and we are less free and more in the hands of the state. The decision is yours. Make it wisely, make it responsibly. And if you don't believe me, think about it for yourself and come to your own conclusions. I believe in freedom. And if enough Americans don't choose it, then we get to ride the roller coaster that the Germans rode in the 1930s or the Italians in the 1920s. That is what I think is on the line. Though I'm a conservative Republican, I'm as anti-fascist as anyone, because I understand both what Antifa is and what fascism means. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and be worthy of this moment in your own conscience.